Guys, what is that? Please. What is that? I'm just gonna move a little bit away from it and come back to it. There it is. It's right on the water's edge, and the signature is getting bigger.
From the journey it took to get so deep into these remote woods to the shocking things that were discovered along the way, here's how the tragedy of Dr. Mireya Mayor's life led to the search for Bigfoot with Expedition Bigfoot. Following the legend that the giant, hairy bipedal cryptid known as Bigfoot is said to be wandering in some of the most remote forests of the United States of America, it absolutely makes sense that there are many people out there who have dedicated their time and other resources towards tracking this mammoth beast down. After all, for too long has the existence of this creature been a point of contention. Yet, till date, nobody has ever been able to come up with conclusive proof that Bigfoot is truly real. That is despite the fact that there have been more than 10,000 sightings of the legendary creature in the US alone. Hoping to build on the anecdotal accounts of the encounter with his legendary creature, the highly skilled and experienced members of the Expedition Bigfoot team have wandered into said woods in the US. With any luck, they may actually be the ones to come out of one of these remote spots with that conclusive proof that this creature is truly out there making these thick forests its home. At least that way, they can put an end to all the sniggers their expedition attracts from the scientific community and perhaps the world at large.
What I want to show you is just up above me here.
Okay.
What I found up here is amazing, and we have a significant find that I need you guys to have a look at.
Recently, it seems as though these Bigfoot hunters may have actually made that much needed breakthrough. At least that is what everyone seems to think, as they have recently made a claim that they have actually come out of one of these woods with something that may prove to be too good to be true. Apparently, they have actually been able to record footage of an actual Bigfoot-like creature. Can you guys believe that? Is there any chance this is the real deal? Let's take a look at what these guys have for you. The exciting expedition dedicated to finding the legendary Bigfoot. Looking at the team made up of the likes of Mireya Mayor, the Miami-born primatologist, Russell Accord, the highly proficient survivalist, Ronnie LeBlanc, the well-respected researcher who is said to be the only man to have made castings of what is believed to be real Bigfoot footprints, and their host, Bryce Johnson. There is every chance that this said footage is the real deal. After all, it is believed this footage was recorded while they were out there in said woods with Ryan Golombesky, another well-known Bigfoot investigator in the Bigfoot community. It is believed that this breakthrough only happened because during this particular expedition, it was as though the team was especially driven to come out of these woods with that much needed proof that they are not out there chasing shadows.
Holy crap.
There are no known primates here. There's something really out there.
Something really out there. This could be a Bigfoot.
This turned Mireya Mayor's attention to the fact that in the course of her career studying the primates out in the wild, she had been approached by various Bigfoot researchers who were all going to get information about any mysterious footprints or handprints that she may have noticed while she was out there. This must have been funny to her at some point in time, because as we alluded to, the scientific community does not take the cryptozoology of Bigfoot or pretty much any other mysterious cryptid seriously. As such, it makes sense that she and any other member of the community who knew exactly how the world looked at them because of their search for a creature whose very existence is in doubt, would be driven if they felt that they were on a trail of something big. Maybe something big enough to bring their search for this legendary cryptid to an end once and for all.
I have a heat signature. Straight ahead, right in front of us. It's moving. It's coming in and out. Look, look, look.
Right there, right there.
Yeah.
We got eyes shine. Right there.
With that in mind, Dr. Mireya Mayor was also excited about the grounds they were making with this current expedition because it was a rare and unique opportunity to carry out what she would consider to be a proper scientific investigation. This was massive for her, especially when she considered the fact that she could use her many years of experience and knowledge to search for this creature. Thanks to said background and experience, she already had a good sense of the behavioral tendencies of a creature such as Bigfoot, and as such, she was hoping to build on such data in the course of this expedition. Aside from this, Dr. Mireya Mayor could not help but feel even more excited about this expedition, especially as it gave her the chance to rub shoulders with some of the best experts in a wide variety of skills. With such a diverse group of people lending their talents to one common goal, there was every chance that they may actually be able to combine their skills in a way that would bring Bigfoot out of the shadows once and for all. With such a peek into Dr. Mireya's mindset at that point in time during the investigation, we can all see how she was truly excited about their adventure to find Bigfoot out in the woods. The drive and desire to discover the legendary Bigfoot. With that in mind, it may be remiss of us if we do not mention the fact that it is not the first time that Dr. Mireya Mayor has shocked the entire scientific community with one of her discoveries. After all, there is a reason she is known as the female Indiana Jones. During her many years working with the primates, she garnered a reputation as an explorer who would discover the world's smallest primate, the mouse lemur. Amazing stuff, right? Especially as Dr. Mireya Mayor never thought that she would spend her life working as a TV correspondent for channels such as National Geographic. This was far from her mind when she was studying anthropology and English in the University of Miami, or when she finally achieved her PhD at Stony Brook University, New York.
I had undertaken a project that most people deemed impossible. There were scientists before me that had tried to go out and find and study these animals and had failed. And these animals on the verge of extinction.
Then again, when she looks back on her career trajectory, Dr. Mireya Mayor herself would tell you that it was no normal trajectory. This is interesting, especially as it leaves us wondering about how she would eventually dedicate so much time and effort in discovering the legendary Bigfoot. If you ask her, she would tell you that it all began when she was a cheerleader back in the University of Miami. Apparently, that was when she became fascinated with primates. This love and interest in primates saw her take many trips to some of the most fascinating forests all over the world. She would end up in places such as the Amazon of South America or some of the lush forests found in Madagascar. Truly exciting stuff. As fascinating as that may sound, it must be even more captivating to learn that she did this so that she could find some of the rarest primates in existence. In fact, maybe this is when she learned that sometimes a wild goose chase may not be a wild goose chase at all, because before she set off on some of these trips, the supposed experts in this field warned that she may never find some of these creatures that she was looking for out there. Well, as the discovery of the mouse lemur tells us many years later, sometimes you can discover what many consider to be impossible. Well, Dr. Mireya's passion for these creatures over the years eventually led her to becoming a wildlife correspondent. Although this role only came to her because of her experience working in the field, Dr. Mireya would eventually develop a career that will see her spend 20 or more years hunting down these rare and elusive primates. Thanks to this, Dr. Mireya has assessed herself to be both open-minded and a curious skeptic, if such a person could even exist.
I applied for the Madagascar program. I wanted to go and study two of the most critically endangered primates in the world, of which we knew virtually nothing about. There weren't even photographs of these animals in existence, just line drawings.
Maybe it is because she always seemed to let the evidence guide her beliefs at any given point in time during these investigations. Although this sense of curious skepticism may have developed because of the reproach she may receive for claiming that Bigfoot exists without ever finding any conclusive proof that this creature is really out there, all this seemed to do was solidify her resolve to find this creature. That said, she would make sure she would do this by playing the well-known game that rules the scientific community. She was going to approach this expedition with a well-honed sense of logic. What do we mean? Well, in one interview, Dr. Mireya Mayor told the public about some of the things that she had seen while she was out there searching for the legendary cryptid. She herself admitted that she would not have believed in some of the things that she was about to tell them without having seen or experienced them for herself. That said, she was compelled to speak about the time she came across the video that truly convinced her that this legendary creature must be out there. This evolution seemed to occur especially after she laid her eyes on some recordings that Russell captured one day when he was out there in the wilderness. She seemed to be shocked to silence when she laid her eyes on this creature that was clearly unlike anything that she had ever witnessed in her 20-plus years working in nature.
The way that the head looks around before it walks off, there's a head to floor vertical position that is not like a bear's.
Never had she seen such a strange creature as the one standing on its two legs. Thinking back now, Dr. Mireya Mayor was convinced that this creature was a large ape-like creature that seems to be far away from where it ought to have been. Now, in its home in the wild. This was truly astounding to the good doctor, especially as this search for Bigfoot always seemed to be much more than a mystery to her. To her, it was all about bringing evidence to light in an objective way. This was truly noble in a way because this covered evidence that would challenge long-held assumptions, even assumptions that may have been held by her. With that in mind, we can only say that it must have been a plus to Dr. Mireya Mayor to be able to work in a situation where she would make use of the expertise of the other members of her team so that they could track this creature down once and for all. Maybe with such tools, they can actually draw this creature out of the darkness into the light. With that being said, it seemed that it was only a matter of time before such tools would yield the results that we had all been hoping for all this time. The strange massive structures in the trees. As the Expedition Bigfoot team continued with their search for the legendary cryptid in one of the most remote forests out there, things seemed to take an interesting turn for Dr. Mireya Mayor and Bryce Johnson when they eventually came across this massive tree structure deep within this forest. Shocked and confused, they were eventually able to take notice of the fact that this tree structure may have been a bit off, but it looked like it was intentionally built out there in the middle of these woods. Who or what could have been responsible for such a structure? That is what the pair would have loved to know at that point. Sure, they had come across similar structures when they were out in Alaska, for example, but they did notice that this one stood out more because it seemed to be much larger than anything they had ever come across in the past as they searched for Bigfoot. Despite the fact that Mireya thought the structure was strange, a thought that contrasted how impressed Bryce was by what they were looking at, they both were able to notice that the trees did indeed look like they had been put together in the shape of what could only be considered to be a shelter of some sort.
There is no question that this was put here with intent. This has a purpose.
100%.
This has a reason for being here. And my first thought is, what makes this area so spectacular?
Looking at it, it was massive at about 15 feet high, making it high enough to be referred to as a Bigfoot house. As interesting as this may be, we ain't seen nothing yet. At least not until we take a look at the top of the shelter, because that is where you'd find that all the trees had been connected, because they seemed to be woven together with a precision that betrayed the fact that someone or something had been conscious of what it was doing when it was putting this strange structure together. It truly gets spookier by the minute when it comes to the search for the legendary cryptid that is Bigfoot. Once the pair were done with their detailed examination of this tree shelter, Bryce came up with an interesting theory. He was of the belief that no ordinary animal would have been able to do this. Well, at least not the ones that are known to call these woods home. If you asked him, the structure could not be built by just anyone or anything. To Bryce, this made sense because each tree or log, if you will, must have weighed anything between 150 to 200 pounds. What was even more interesting about the structure was that it seemed to have decorative patterns laid across all the trees that were put together to make it. With that in mind, Bryce believed the structure must have been put together by a group of men. With such a theory in mind, it's fair enough that this structure left the pair scratching their heads in confusion. What could truly have made this structure? After all, someone or something seems to favor such a structure, because as we mentioned earlier, they had found similar structures in many other parts of the country. With such thoughts in mind, the pair started working on deducing what or who could have built these tree structures. That said, it is interesting to note that Dr. Mireya didn't think that these structures were so significant, despite the fact that Bryce seemed to draw a lot of optimism from its mere presence.
With this ornate ornamentation laid across the top, it would have taken a crew of men to put this thing together.
What may be encouraging about the pair and how they worked together was the fact that they both seemed to agree on one thing. They had to check the structure so that they could see if they could find any valuable DNA evidence in them. Indeed, this was a great idea because if it truly was built by someone or something, then surely they must have left some DNA evidence behind. As the pair searched the tree structure for that much desired DNA evidence, Bryce continued musing about the structure. In the end, he came to the conclusion that if someone or something did build this thing, they must have had a reason to do so. As such, there must be some sort of purpose behind building this thing standing before them. To him, it seemed as though this structure must have been something that Bigfoot used to mark its boundary. With that in mind, the pair had to appreciate that they may be risking their very lives just standing this close to the strange structure. Noticing how enthusiastic Bryce seemed to be about the whole thing, Mireya noted Bryce's observations. Although she was compelled to agree that the structure was indeed a mysterious one, worthy of many speculations, to her, it was important for them not to jump to any conclusions. After all, they haven't proven anything yet, and as such, they are just looking at a cluster of trees until the answers come to them. This seems to be a well-known trait of the good doctor. This must be due to her background as a scientist. As such, she always had to approach things from a logical point of view, especially when she was looking at things that are believed to be unexplained or relegated to the realm of pseudoscience. As such, one of her roles in the group, a role that is super important due to the tenuous nature of their work, is to make sure that they approach their theories and beliefs with caution. This meant that she was there to analyze any evidence that they came across with a sense of skepticism. That way, they can present their findings in a way that would be able to stand the tides of any scrutiny that they may encounter, be it scientific or otherwise.
Did remind me of instantly, though, was that tree structure that we had found in Kentucky. And that's where we had gotten some of our most interesting DNA results.
As such, if they were going to be taken seriously by the scientific community and the world at large, it was clear to Dr. Mireya that she felt it was best for them to avoid the strange findings that they come across from time to time as evidence. To her, that is exactly why she would remain skeptical that this tree structure was anything but evidence, except maybe when something convincing occurred. At this point, though, it may take Bigfoot itself to show up at the structure to prove that it may have actually built the thing. That said, the tree structure did remind her of some of the other similar structures that she had come across when she happened to be in the state of Kentucky. When she was in the bluegrass state, she happened to come across what she would consider to be some of the most promising DNA samples they had ever found while searching for this elusive cryptid. With that in mind, Bryce had the ability to understand Dr. Mireya's point of view. As such, he was cooperative when she figured that they needed to find some more clues while they were still out there. Once this was understood by the pair, they went on to collect potential samples from underneath the weird structure and outside of it. This proved to be a productive exercise because the area outside the structure seemed to give them enough samples to leave them satisfied for the time being. Things started to look like they were on the up when Bryce came across what looked to be samples of hair. Amazing, right? Well, it was amazing enough for Bryce to call out for Dr. Mireya in a really exciting manner. Once they collected the samples, Bryce announced excitedly that he could not wait to take these samples to their lab for further examination. Just off the bat, he was really excited about what DNA testing would reveal about the creature that the hair belonged to.
Not only is there this giant tree structure, but there's also evidence in the form of hair.
Hey, Bryce, just found another one here.
Soon, though, this delivery of the hair samples to the lab would provide more questions than answers, as the DNA testing could not reveal anything about the creature, other than the fact that it belonged to someone or something that hasn't been discovered yet. Unbelievably, that was not the most shocking thing when it came to these strange hair samples. The shocking results of the DNA tests. Eager to see what they can learn from these hairs, Dr. Mireya and Bryce sent the hair samples to be examined for environmental DNA, also known as EDNA. This state-of-the-art scientific tool, something that takes a look at the genetic materials left by animals in their environment, could be used to tell us about what these creatures are engaged in while we are absent. This was exciting for Dr. Mireya because she believed that this expedition that they just completed could be the one to bring the legend of Bigfoot to reality. With that in mind, Dr. Miroslava Munguai-Ramos, the project manager of the California Environmental DNA Program in UCLA, took several months to examine the samples she received from the Expedition Bigfoot team. After taking a look at the DNA sample, Dr. Ramos was surprised to find that not only did the DNA samples have human DNA, they were also deemed to have primate DNA as well. This revealed that the DNA sample seemed to have chimpanzee DNA in its composition, something that was shocking to the doctor because chimpanzees were not known to live in such woods. With that in mind, we are left to wonder who or what could be living in those woods. Until that is sorted, we can only watch as we hope that the Expedition Bigfoot team will one day bring the mystery of Bigfoot to an end. From the journey it took to get so deep into these remote woods to the shocking things that were discovered along the way, here's how the tragedy of Dr. Mireya Mayor's life led to the search for Bigfoot with Expedition Bigfoot.